What's going on, everyone? I'm assuming everything started now. Welcome. Today, Nathaniel Hennig joins Danny and myself to talk about the current state of the meta, Warhammerfest, The Seattle, Tacoma Open. My name is John. It's pretty grim after dark. My co-host today needs some introduction. He's so irritated by my weekly attempts jokes that he's actually packing up his army to come kick my ass in person. It's Danny McDevitt. What's up, Danny? You know, the more that you react with rage, the more he's going to do it.
I know. I can't help myself. I'm probably being overly sensitive.
That's fair. Hey, Danny, we're just going to skip through some. Go ahead and introduce our guest.
Our guest tonight is a guy who writes stuff. Also, he's on podcasts. Sometimes sometimes his face appears, and sometimes you just get to read his words. He has a beard. And no, I'm just kidding. So tonight we've got
no. Don't you dare. Keep going. Like, I love that you're putting the Seinfeld meme level of detail into this introduction. What shampoo does he use?
He's well known for microwaving tea. He also is known sometimes for writing articles for Frontline Gaming about statistics and Warhammer 40,000 specifically, but no other games. At least not to my knowledge. He may have another career somewhere that we don't really understand. So tonight, we're pleased to welcome Nathan Hennig. Nathan, welcome.
Going on. Man,
I love it.
This music is on point. I love it. And guys, chat, please be aware, Nathan's now a doctor, so if you have any medical questions, throw them in there. We will absolutely ask him, as all doctors are one and the same. The doctor is in. Guys, massive week. We're not going to be able to hit on everything, but we are going to touch on some of the GW Warhammerfest reveals, the Seattle Open. We're going to dare to look at Daka a little bit. And also, we're going to put on our detective hats. We're going to solve a crime. That's what we're going to do this week. Danny, you look concerned or confused.
I mean, what kind of a crime is this, John? Is it?
Well, we did have a wonderful discussion before going on air about, I think, was it morality versus legality. It was a little over my head here, but it's fun. We'll get it going here. Last week, though, was a massive week of reveals with new Chaos models, squads. We had some Heresy, even some new Age of Sigmar models. So let's start by talking about Warhammerfest. Nathan, what are some of your thoughts on the reveals before we kind of move on to some of the more specific things here?
So we finally are starting to get into the Year of Chaos, apparently halfway through the year, maybe, eventually. I don't know. They didn't really say when anything was coming out. So eventually it will be the Year of Chaos. But we had cultists, possessed cultists, very possessed cultists, and then possessed Marines. And then slightly less possessed sorcerers, who are also cultists.
Danny, there was, like Nathan said here, a ton of new Chaos stuff coming out. What were your thoughts on the release of cultists, wave after wave of cultists? Like, yes, you can have 2 wounds, but all of the models will in fact be cultists.
Well, John, I'm excited to see some more additions to Chaos's repertoire as we started the Year of Chaos, technically, with Chaos Knights that releases this upcoming weekend here.
Well, that was going to be my other question. Does it take a PhD to see the Year of Chaos is halfway over 4 months into the year? Is that some kind of math I'm unaware of?
Look, this guy's really good at statistics. I don't want to poke holes in his position or anything like that, but it's fine. We'll just go with it. I don't understand statistics very well. I'm just a simple country boy.
We're still at over 50% of the year, so it could still be mostly the Year of Chaos.
I feel like, to me, if they have Chaos releases over the course of 5 total months. That's substantial performance for them to say that this is the year of chaos. But hey, I don't know. I don't know that much. Anyway, what was your question again, John?
Love it. Good. That was. I couldn't ask for a better answer than the one you provided. Touching on some specifics, so something that definitely stood out to me as Val skips to slide 2 as we moved over slide 1 is the slow release of the League of Voltan with this amazing biker model that kind of came out here as part of the range. Guys, as everything goes away from me here, Nate, what's your thoughts on the biker?
So I think somewhere in here we got like some StarCraft vibes off of the bike that squad is riding. She does have a really cool gun though. That shotgun's quite something, but otherwise it looks like somebody either took a StarCraft bike or took several Castellan robots and like broke them into bits and then kit bashed a motorcycle out of it.
Yeah,
I like it though. I don't mind it.
Danny, some of the aesthetic of Votan and some of the stuff they're going on is that this is maybe what a society would look like if they didn't accidentally lose all of their ability to make new things. What is your takeaway on this new League of Votan Scout Biker?
I just want to make sure I understand this question because I missed the
Yep.
last. So
no, you nailed it.
So the supposition is that if society never fell, and we have we'll have space bikers. That's the future. The future is space bikers, John. Like, is that where society will go?
Guys, if you weren't painfully aware of this, Danny is knee deep in finals for his law school right now.
It's really
which you can tell by the way he expertly breaks apart my question to answer something completely different.
It's really a Wizard of Oz situation with those Votan.
Oh.
Like, I pretty much imagine that those giant heads they showed us of supercomputers just have a tiny little squat that crawls out of like the eye socket or something halfway through. And it's like, haha, they don't know my plan.
Yeah, what's your take on the biker, Danny? Is a kind of a classic update.
I think it's awesome, dude. I really like the hover technology. Like, I think that's great. I've seen some people just do a really terrible job of like adding wheels to it and like a beard to the face of the female squad because I don't know, they probably hate women. But like it
is a Warhammer model.
Well, I mean, hey, it's the Warhammer community, so you never you have to basically suspect the worst. I think.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong.
But
when you subscribe to Arch's Patreon, you get a 3D STL file for beards.
I love the
Sister Battle beard.
Like, I think that's awesome, and there's an autocannon on the front of the bike. That's rad too. Mm-hmm. So I'm all in on these tricyclists.
Yeah, of course, and of course, the community really seemed to respond in a mixed fashion, though, with one particularly standing out to me when they commented with, "I love how the blanket blocks the front light. Such amazing design. It stops your enemies from seeing your light source in the dark." Starting with you here, Nathan, what's your thoughts on unrealistic light placement on a flying bike piloted by a midget space miner?
Well, there are people of shorter stature in real life, so I suppose we're not that far off. And then there are those, like, people are making magnetic levitation devices for bikes, so I wouldn't be surprised. We're not that far off from where we should be. But really, I mean, I can't believe that people are worried about realism in a game where a guy inside of a tank is holding a chainsaw aloft. And the most famous meme of that is, drive me closer so I can hit them with my sword, please.
Yeah. And then, Danny, before we jump to you here, chat, I'm aware, he says, all dwarves have beards, whether they're male or female. That's true, but these aren't dwarves. These are the League of Votan, something completely copyrightable and distinct from dwarfs. Danny, what's your kind of take? Because we're seeing kind of a lot of this, a lot of the complaints we're seeing about the models now, is that they're just like, oh, you have a blanket in front of your light, or, oh, it could never float like that. What's your take of this, like, hyper criticism?
So you just totally stole my thunder here, John. I was going to say dwarves famously have dark vision, and thus are able to see in the dark just fine. So they don't need headlights. The headlight is superfluous. They only use that to blind and confuse their enemies. So her blanket placement is totally legitimate.
Yeah. Well, thankfully they downloaded night vision from a Votan, so they're A-OK from that. Good. There. I just want to show you this guy here. I put this in here. I had a joke to go along with it, but I didn't make the cut. But I just love this guy so much. Slide 4. What a handsome boy. Look at that guy.
Ooh.
That's so happy. If we could go back, I don't want floaty space things. I want weird looking trikes that look like if it hit a single pebble, it would break the front axles. Nathan, what other units are we going to see for the league? That aren't the land train. Land train, of course, the easiest entry to do. But we've seen kind of like a core trooper. We've seen the grav bike scout guy. What else is going to come from the Votan?
I'm gonna guess that we'll see some robots of some kind, probably with mustache guns. I'm just gonna guess mustache guns.
Safe bet.
That's fair.
And I mean, it might be mustache flamers as well. We might have rockets instead of hair, you know? We might have floating skulls like Votan avatars just floating around the field.
Do you think they'll have beards?
Maybe a little bit of both, beards and no beards. I assume that the squads are pretty egalitarian and actually unlike the real world and the 40K community.
I really want some servo skulls though with beards. Like I think the idea behind that is pretty amazing. But yeah. Some Valia pattern servo skulls would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, for sure. Danny, what do you hope to see from the league coming up?
Oh, so much stuff, John. I mean, obviously we want to see the aforementioned land train. Everybody wants to see that. I
said you couldn't want to see that because that's
literally no people who don't want to see the land train, John. Everybody wants it. It's in the book.
Only a fool would not want
all aboard that specific hype train.
Yeah, choo. Yeah, I'd also like to see some exo armor. That would be pretty cool. Those are the Terminator style. Votanians. I don't know. Votans. Isn't the
League
Votan
members
though?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I would like to see an underground conveyance method. I want to see maybe some termites for them or something like that. That would be really cool. Or a dirigible.
I want some kind of reference to the old Hell's Angels aesthetic somewhere in there too. I won't lie. Like, just it can be an infantry option. They don't need to be on bikes, but somebody just needs to be wearing a leather jacket with like the sleeves ripped off and some kind of spiked helmet.
Yeah, with a beard. GW.
Of course.
And just real quick, that's a bad Twitch chat. That's a very bad Twitch chat. I just want to see the fact that there's a Votan is a giant computer server. I just want to see one Votan guy just pushing around a dolly with like a bunch of like computer equipment strapped to it, like they're taking the Votan into battle with them, sort of like a Citan. Yeah, yeah, he's gonna hack the command point straight away from here.
No, he's gonna download some more RAM into the Votan so it can run faster. Like, I mean, that's one of their actionable goals.
It's just a Windows status screen, really, with like this calculation is going to take 38 years.
Guys, sorry, go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say their banners will have the mythical paperclip from Word on it.
Oh, Clippy.
Mm-hmm. So they'll
looks like
Clippy
you're trying to commit genocide.
Do you need help with that? We can contact the nearest Inquisitor for you.
Oh,
it looks like you're trying to commit heresy.
Guys, that's not the only diminutive dwarfs we saw this week, as Necromunda showed off a brand new gang of literal squats. These guys look amazing. They look, I mean, to be fair, it does look like something fell on their head, like in a 1930s comedy, and it shortened their neck. But they are literal squats. Nathan, what's your thoughts on like a sub-faction of squats before we even get the Votan?
I like these models, but at the same time, I'm like, can you accentuate them and how short they are? Because they look kind of like they're wearing Dad's helmet to work. Like this is the kid putting on Dad's shoes and walking sadly out the door, going and to play pretend. Kind of is what it makes me think of.
Yeah, Danny, what was your take on the literal squats that we're getting in Necromunda?
I was just gonna say the same thing as Ligoski. Like they're obviously pretending to be Juggernaut. from Marvel Comics. But I love these guys with my entire body, and I definitely want a lot of them. I really hope I'm able to take them in my League of Votann army.
Yeah.
I'm super hyped. The guy with the
Yeah.
hammer is the best.
Yeah, they're all amazing. I think my favorite thing from the skirmish game reveals was the revelation that Ash Waste, of course, being the new expansion for Necromunda, with vehicle combat coming in, was that 40k vehicles are going to be moving in. So Goliaths and Rug Grinders and other things like that, because those are just industrial vehicles, right? So the quad bikes or the bikes, the quads, the Goliaths, they're going to have rules for use in Necromunda, which I was like, yeah, that's really rad. But yeah, and then for everyone in chat, for Nathan, for Danny who pointed it out, I wanted to bring up this meme created by Evan Van Dyke of Sepulture of Heroes. Yeah, it is just a juggernaut.
I hadn't seen this.
I'm the Votann. I don't want to curse because I'll get you guys like explicit tag somehow. I don't know.
I was gonna say it's the helmets are what most people are complaining about. People tend to love the bodies, the guns, and everything else there. Is it too squished down? Like Nathan, you were saying that it was like, you're wearing your dad's work clothes. Or does it work with the aesthetic that they're going for?
I think also it's the fact that they painted it bright damn yellow. Like, there's nothing to draw the eye better to this one spot of criticism than painting it the brightest color on the whole model.
I mean,
although it is very work safe. It's following all the OSHA regulations about wearing proper
these guys are
headgear.
miners, right?
It's true.
You have rocks fall on your head. You want a sturdy helmet.
It's true. And you want people to know you're being safe, so your helmet should be bright yellow.
Right.
It's true.
Squats are famously infertile.
Chat coming in, we're talking about ash wastes. $300 for the ash waste box. Property value is surprisingly high in irradiated wasteland. Guys, you're literally getting all of the terrain you need, the rule book, and 2 complete gangs. Just take $150 or less if you buy it from Frontline Gaming, and then just make your way that way. It's perfect. See, that means my family's safe because I plugged the network.
That's right, John.
The assassins have been called off for this week.
Shill one more time. We are, by the way, chat and viewers, working on a way to have a shill counter added to the show by popular request of reviews. But in order to do that, we need 5 more 5-star reviews telling us we're terrible wherever good podcasts are found. Chaos, though, got a lot of love. You guys were talking about it. We're excited about it with a lot of new cultists. My favorite of which is, of course, these guys here, which I did add in a small comment from the community where they said, these sculpts are a new low. They look like a poorly conceived kit bash with proportions all whack. Who the hell greenlit this garbage? Well, I'll tell you, probably the head of the studio greenlit it. Was like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Danny, do you think someone else had power to greenlight that there?
I mean, whoever they did, they should be fired. Those models are terrible.
What? Wait, like for real?
I hate them, dude.
Okay.
Those ones I don't like. I like the other mutated cultists much better. But these just look like somebody went into like the AutoCAD and just or a slicer and just smushed together a bunch of models and they're like, oh cool, this is fine. It's chaos. It'll look great.
Nathan, do you have a bad opinion like Danny, or did you like these cultist models?
So I actually prefer the other smaller scale possessed models personally. I agree with Danny. It's very in chaos for them to look like somebody grabbed Katamari style, a bunch of bits, rolled a ball of putty inside of a bits jar and came up with yeah, this looks right, and then cast a miniature out of it. It's very chaosy, but it's not. I love all the other models that they previewed for the chaos stuff. I just don't love these ones.
These are supposed to be horrors beyond your comprehension. When you comprehend them, they just look bad. Just so simply stop comprehending the horrors. You won't have a problem. That's all you got to do. You got to go through the Lovecraft school of miniature ranging here.
Maybe if they weren't painted in quite so bright colors and didn't look so cartoonishly constructed.
The best way to do it is to print out your show slides and then they're in black and white because you're too cheap for color. That's right.
I think maybe if they were painted all the same skin color, everything was the same skin color with maybe an accent color, they would probably look a lot better.
But then they would be man-made horrors within my comprehension, which would ruin it.
So what you're saying is we need some fourth dimensional horror paint just for
Yeah.
these models, so that when people look at them, their eyes like start to bleed. They get
Perfect.
stigmata forming on their hands, like that
Yeah.
kind of
At my
stuff.
next tournament, I'm just going to deploy a bunch of bases, and they're going to be like, "What's your army?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's beyond your comprehension.
Yeah, you
It's just a
can't
demon
look at
list.
these.
Just simply comprehend it, and you'll know what's coming at you." But guys, apparently some of the community had the same thoughts and feelings as you, which I'm really sad about because I thought everyone would mindlessly agree with me. They're saying this is not
Oh,
Grimdark 40K.
No.
I grew up with anymore. The 40K from the best years of fluff from 2000 to 2010. Yeah, that was when the game was the best. With publications like the Taros Campaign, Amphibian Project, Badab Wars. It's the new comic Marvel like 40K. New 40K where you can shove pretty much everything with a little
Powder on it? We may have lost John.
yeah, I don't
still
really
awesome
understand that.
with
But-
better squats. PS2, it's not a rant. I'm just stating the facts.
Man, I didn't realize that these were facts. I guess we can't argue with them.
Yeah,
Chad coming in strong though. Badab Wars hot trash.
I think most of the Imperial Armor stuff basically read like a 13-year-old's fan fiction about 40K personally, but that's maybe just me.
Oof.
well,
That is a little truer than I want to admit.
yeah, you just did some emotional damage to me, Nathan. I don't appreciate that very much. Younger me is crying.
Older me is
hate mail
crying
after this.
because I would literally describe the Amphibian Project as Jurassic Park with Tyranids. And it gets really sad when someone just describes it as like 40K fan fiction. Wonderful. I love it. So yeah, I'm going to ask you guys, starting with Nathan, what is Grimdark?
Oh, that's hard actually. Because
Yeah, see, I tee it
think-
up with a bunch of poorly conceived jokes
Then
and
you-
like
then you're
terribly
like-
thought out questions.
describe a whole genre, by the way, is the next question. I think,
in one sentence.
yeah,
Well,
apparently
you have
the
people coming
elevator
in being like,
pitch
"This
for
isn't
Grimdark.
Grimdark. Like this isn't Grimdark. That isn't Grimdark. This amalgamation of 5 people into a blob isn't Grimdark." So
It's just
what is
one
Grimdark
person.
to you?
It's just one person.
And a
You don't know
beast.
that.
Or 3
And a
beasts.
demon
They
spirit.
all have 4 normal limbs just hanging out in it.
Yeah, most do.
But I think Grimdark is best explained as like not black and white, but shades of gray that tend more towards the darker end of gray when you're looking at morality. So a world with more bad things. But this is like a real struggle to explain a whole genre in like an elevator pitch. Thank you to the English writing person for coming up with a question you need like a 25-page paper to answer.
I think it's
No, my professor gave me 5 pages or less. I'm sorry.
I think it's a realistic view on the future and morality. That's how I
Oh,
look.
back to morality. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So very like taking all of the worst cases of humanity and cranking them all to 11. So that's why you have this insanely fascist theocratic regime.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That carves up
a worst case scenario with no good guys.
Basically, I think there's like one scene in one of the Warhammer crime novels where they walk into a servitor processing plant and they talk about the lines of people who are just like regular old people that the mechanic has grabbed for like random nonsense crimes. And they're like, yeah, you walk through this room and it's just a bunch of people being dismantled and put back together as robots to serve the mechanicus for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
that scene, though, if you want to read read it is from one of the Warhammer Crimes novels. I'll remember what it is, and I'll try to get.
But Nathan, that isn't Grimdark. That's Grimdark Noir, which is a sub-genre of Grimdark.
Sorry, I got a C on my paper because I described a subgenre rather than the whole genre.
So I got a B+ when I tried to do it properly. Danny, what if you were the community and they're screaming for Grimdark? What do you think they're actually screaming for, and why is it attention?
I think so. It's, and I don't know. I don't want to put too fine a point on this, but it always seems more rosy when you're first introduced to this kind of stuff. And have they interjected some of the humor back into the game? Because that was definitely something they were trying to remove a lot of during that time period, I feel like while you did have things like Doom Rider, that kind of stuff was pretty far and few between. It wasn't like a second edition Orcs Codex, right? It was like that was like the exception to the rule. And so I think once you introduce people to that, and this kind of newer 40K definitely kind of has that. There's definitely some more funny or more ridiculous things happening, and it's not quite. I don't think it's as grim because there's hope for humanity. I feel like in this maybe a little bit, even though the Emperor's failing and things like that, you have new heroes taking up his mantle. The Imperium is expanding for the first time in 10,000 years. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think when you crank the Grimdark too hard is when you get stuff like Demon Kilaba, which is like way too much.
Yeah, and if you want an example of what that is, either check last week's episode where Taylor described it in graphic detail, like far more than we ever wanted. And then, chat pointed that one out as well. Do you want to point out here, Real Dead Rock wants to know when someone tell him which models to buy so he can win at Toy Soldiers. And as super producer Val correctly pointed out, literally listen to any other show on this network for them to tell you. But producer, get the shill counter ready because I want to tell you, buy all of them. And then buy 3 of all of them from Frontline Gaming. And then they'll be able to get you taken care of.
Buy 6 so you can have every weapon variation.
Yeah.
And no magnets here.
Your goodies at a discount any day of the week.
At Frontline
Any
Gaming.
day, but not Sundays, not including Sundays. Guys, the Demon Prince is here. We got to move on in all of his glory. And one of my favorite reactions was this guy here. Dear GW, you were so close to perfection. You took one of the best sculpts you ever made as inspiration, which is weird that they took a gargantuan squiggoth as inspiration for a Demon Prince. And you just fell short. If you only had put power armor, lower legs, and made the tail optional. Guys, we've seen the total Demon Prince now with multiple heads, multiple options, things like that. What are your guys' take on the new Demon Prince? Starting with you, Danny, to give Nathan a little break there.
Man, so when we first saw the Demon Prince, I hated it. I thought it was stupid. That stupid face with its stupid mouth, like its little beady eyes and like its shit-eating grin. I hated it. But now, like that we see it kind of resemble that 3.5 edition like Demon Prince more with the head. I love the horns. The optional other heads are great. I don't know if there's any other heads. There very well could be. Who knows? It's probably a $50 kit. And you get wings and swords and it's like all the things. Who cares that it doesn't have lower leg armor? Come on, guys. He may have said that he doesn't need that shit.
That guy did. He said he needed it.
He's wrong.
Yeah, I do want to say Airborne 248, we need an animation of Reese or Frankie peeking into the frame when shill counter music goes off. I mean, that's liable to break the show for the next 8 months, but yeah, we do. That's absolutely something we want to add in there.
Maybe like Reese popping up with the counter, like in his hands. Like, I like that idea.
Like Monty Python style, his mouth just opens and the number's there. Love it.
You could just give the counter his mustache, you know.
Ooh.
Oh, that's only works like half the year. Yeah. Nathan, what's your take on this new Demon Prince kit?
I actually love this version of the Demon Prince. Similar to Danny, I kind of hate the weird, super toothy grin guy. I don't know how else to explain it.
But he does live in a society.
It's true. He does live in a society, and he is also hated there. But I love this one. I actually didn't think of that Demon Prince sculpt when I first saw the preview, but why wouldn't you make something based off of that sculpt? Because that sculpt is amazing, and this is a really good homage to it. It's an evolved homage to it. Because, guys, while that sculpt is great, it doesn't look as good compared to modern models. You're going to have to take your nostalgia home a little bit. Just put it on the shelf and buy the new one.
No, you take it out back and you shoot it in the face.
Nathan, what you can't hear right now is the sound of the dislike button on YouTube being furiously clicked
that's really,
by people defending their They're 30-year-old sculpts that are older than most of our
And
audience.
believe me, Nathan, those guys that are doing that, they have a lot of fast twitch muscle built up from constant internet usage. Yeah, it's just quick.
It's quick.
I mean, I still have some 30-year-old Eldar models that are still used today that are the current sculpts. So,
Well, you can't age out of being a warp spider. That sculpt is just classic and can never be improved upon.
or Baharoth or Swooping Hawks. It's true.
Exactly. Guys, though, the biggest internet explosion coming out of the Warhammer 40,000 preview at Warhammer Fest was this picture right here. Wait, it's a bear. It's a war bear. People went insane because
That cyborg bear is great.
there's a literal bear. Guys, starting with you, Nathan, what was your thoughts on this picture that came out? Why did it capture the minds of people?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I saw in like 5 different discords locally was, does this mean Space Marine 2.0 is coming out like right now? And I was like, it's a piece of artwork, guys. Also, you're missing the best part of it, which is the cyborg bear who is somehow to the right hand side of Gilliman. How did this cyborg bear get to rank
Nathan, I'm
so
going to
high?
correct you there. He's actually stage right, but he's on the left-hand side of Gilliman.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
You got to know where bears are at all times in Alaska, sir. You know that better than anyone.
It's true. I have seen a picture of a bear in your backyard, and I did wonder if it was Alaska or a zoo.
It can be both, and they're both disappointing. Danny, war bear, thoughts?
Okay, so normally I would be loath to be happy about seeing anything that's clearly influenced by John Blanche. But in this case, I'll give it a pass. And I'm excited about Cyber Bear being in the picture. More Cyber Bear. Make some plastic Vostroyans. Make that part of the command squad. You'd make a ton of people really happy.
I just want that to be Gilliman's mount in the 10th edition codex. He rides the cyber bear into battle. That's
Piggyback
really
style.
why he's on the stage right hand side of the Primarch, obviously.
You know,
Instead of I am Cato Sicarius.
Nate, no, he is right behind Cato Sicarius. Maybe that's Cato Sicarius's check. I was also thinking maybe we're seeing a picture of the new Lehman Russ model.
He's become a bear. He's been in the
warp
so
does
long.
terrible things.
It does.
Yeah.
Secretly, they were the space bears all along.
We're going to use that from here on out. It'll be like, hey, this is my stage right-hand man. But while the war bear is pretty popular, I did cut out some of the best parts here in this slide here. And we have, of course, the war bear on the right-hand side here. We have Primaris Cato Sicarius, who popped up in the top left-hand side.
Is he Primaris?
It just looks like Cato Sicarius to me.
I want to say that Cato Sicarius is the kind of guy who would pretend to go through the Rubicon Primaris and wear Mark X armor while not actually being Primaris.
Is that Mark X armor, though?
Under the cloak and the bear? Yeah.
Is it?
I was kind of hoping that they would try and go Primaris and then just die, like so many of the Space Marines do. And then we'd be rid of him forever.
We're never going to be rid of Cato Sicarius because Cato Sicarius was there first.
He was. Before life, there was Cato Sicarius. We also have Gulliman reading what scale-wise is the largest book ever created.
Mm-hmm.
If you think Gulliman's like, 8 or 9 feet tall, that book is about 7 foot wide. So that's why no one sticks to the Codex Astartes, because no one's big enough to actually handle it or open it.
And the only animal capable of carrying it is apparently a 2-headed Canadian goose.
It's actually no birds, it's all pictures.
It really is. It's a child's book. It's made of cardboard.
The pages are like an inch thick.
Gilliman doesn't have time to read. He only reads the pictures in his briefings.
That's for Cato Sicarius right there. You know, I'm glad to see that this whole this war convocation is going to be protected against, like cyborg gorilla men. Because if they ever attack, Sicarius will be right there to defeat them, and no problem, without even trying.
I have to say, though, guys, my favorite part is this part here. There's a gentleman in the very bottom smoking a cigar beside a guy with very obvious respiratory issues, like a giant asshole. Just like right front of the frame, just smoking away inside of all places too.
That's actually just another smoking device.
Yeah, that's what we call a full face vape.
That's a grimdark vape pen. Is just a face mask.
Getting hotboxed all day, every day.
Oh man, that's yeah, cool.
It's watermelon flavored. Before we move on here, what else do you guys want to talk about the Warhammer Fest reveals? I mean, there was a ton of stuff there. What else that we haven't really touched on hit your eye, Nathan?
The Necron community got really excited for a brief moment because there's a Necron on the cover of Chapter Approved.
Oh,
maybe that means there will be good rules in that book for the Necrons, and they won't be relegated to the Necron tier anymore.
No, yeah, the Necron tier is
Necron
a really
tier.
solid joke.
Yeah, that sucks. God, you should be disappointed in yourself, and your mom should be disappointed in you right now.
No, it's 1 out of 1. Doctor approved and recommended that joke.
Oh. Appeal to authority.
Legally, that's
yourself.
See, only one of us has completed professional school, though, and that is this guy.
All right, I'll defer to your expertise.
Danny, what about you? Anything else that kind of stuck out to you there from the reveals?
Oh man. All right. The Sons of Hashut. You gotta love a Chaos Dwarf inspired warband and Warcry that has no dwarf models.
I did like that. It was very inclusive of them to not put a height requirement on worshiping the god.
Must be at least 3.5 feet plus tall hat to enter.
True. And they do have really tall hats, and I do appreciate that about them.
They do. Guys, on the downside, GW did announce that the old world would take like 2 to 3 years to come out, so not to expect anything. However, that was announced in 2019, as we show here from this from Warhammer community, which means 2 to 3 years from 2019. And I'm no doctor or lawyer, but that would make it 2025 that we'll start hearing stuff from the old world.
I'm so sad for them.
Yeah, that math checks out.
That sure does. Old world when? Who knows? Guys, get that shill counter ready. We are now less than a month away from LVO 2023 tickets going live. They're going to be going live. Get this on your calendars. Monday, June 6th. LVO will be fully up and running this year and be in the biggest and best LVO ever. We say that every year, but every year it's true. The Rio will be in full operation. Restaurants are going to be open. There's going to be a lot of updates being made. It's going to be a great time. If you guys have attended LVO 2022, you'll know the Rio is a fantastic venue with an amazing amount of space. We can't wait to see all of you guys there at LVO 2023. Tickets available Monday, June 6th. Woo! Love it. Moving on. The Seattle Open happened. Not in Seattle. Art of War member and all-around good guy John Lennon won the event after 3 brutal days. But what caught my eye isn't the fact that Art of War won another major, as they are will to do, but it was this sent to us by a good friend, Eric Rickards. It is the Seinfeld neoprene objectives. Danny, could you take us through each individual scene in Seinfeld that those pictures were taken from?
I won't do it. Look, I think that these are a lot of really great pictures from various different. I mean, I can tell you which characters these are. You'd have to look like stage right. You'll see.
I think the Costanza one.
Yeah.
I'm sure Costanza's dad is yelling about the what is that holiday they invented?
Festivus.
It's probably a Festivus one. Let's be honest.
You guys are
maybe
waiting until I have a can
Gary
in my
Stiller
mouth
is
every
wants
time.
to yell at many things. I've actually met him in person. He's a really nice guy. And then I think the picture of George Costanza is from the Christmas card that he did, where he was like, kind of. Oh no, it's not. No, he's got a collared shirt. I don't know. How can I take one still image and find out where this is from, John? You've given me.
That was literally your gimmick with the Seinfeld memes. You fake.
What do I
You
look like? Hercules? Like, are you going to give me these 7 impossible tasks? Is that your plan? Just to make
Well, I
me
mean,
look
there's
bad on
6
Amazon?
objective markers, so yeah, make it harder on yourself, sure. But you can only really truly appreciate the objective markers when you see them in action, as we see here with this Elaine face on an objective, surrounded by Tyranids. Guys, I want a set of these so bad. These are great. Nathan, what are some of the best objective markers you've ever seen? Because there's a lot of neoprene ones out there now.
So this is where not having been to a lot of events, I think, is my downfall. So I'm hoping to go to my first major in Seattle for the Best in Tabletop Open at the end of June. So that'll be my first big event that I play at. I did hear that there was somebody who did really well in a FLGN run event who had Taylor Swift objective markers, which I thought was pretty funny.
Little Matt Laura, right? Producer
yeah.
Val can confirm for us.
But I think these Seinfeld ones are probably the best ones that I've seen, just because they are kind of really silly and ridiculous. And most of them are just kind of overly serious and like covered in big text.
Yeah. Danny, what about you? You've been to a lot of events. You have that competitive spirit, heart of the cards inside you. What are some of the best objective markers you've seen?
Probably some of the ones that Art of War makes people their players use, where like if they lose a dice bet, they've got to use objective markers with their opponent's face on them. I quite like the idea of that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, though very expensive if you're not an Art of War and going to say a 1,000-person tournament like LVO to have to make 900
doesn't sell
sets.
his likeness cheaply. Let me tell you, I asked to license it for an objective marker, and he told me it was going to be at least a 2-year subscription to Art of War in order for me to do that.
Buddy, you got to plug and chug. That's a real old reference right there. Holy cow. Nathan, lots of not shocking news coming out of the Seattle Open, though, from GW. This is kind of the first major post-data slate, post-Tyranids. What did you see coming out of it with your white dove wings of statistics?
That's Dr. White Dove Wings of statistics to you, John.
So wait, everything you own is called Doctor now too?
Yeah, everything.
This is my Doctor car. My Doctor microwave for my Doctor tea.
Didn't you know?
Adjacent.
This is how it works. Everything I own now, everything I order, it's great.
His cat.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Cat.
It's a hereditary title too, apparently. So, if I have kids, they'll be doctors too. That's how this works.
You can take antibiotics for that.
Yeah. And this is not to be confused with the cartoon Dr. Katz.
True. No. Or Dr. Pepper, who is in fact not a doctor, and that's just Dr. Pepper. Mm-hmm. But stats from the weekend, because I don't care about single event stats. So sorry, John. For the weekend, Tyranids did real good with a 70% win rate for just last weekend, which is really good. Right behind them is Harlequins at 69.1%. And then I hate to break it to all the Astra Militarum players or Imperial Guard players, just to cause some controversy and make you two argue with each other. 9 of you tried to play last weekend and all of you failed, getting a 28.4% win rate. Congratulations, Guard players. You are, in fact, one of the few factions to have gotten worse despite getting buffs in the balanced data slate. Although if we look at every army since the balanced data slate, we have the biggest beat boops of sadness from the Adeptus Mechanicus, who are at a 32.4% win rate overall. No. Tyranids are still number 1 at 68%. If you consider,
I am excited for Tyranids to complete the Mechanicus track from tippy top of the tables to just Necron tier, like right at the bottom, just garbage stuff.
Just the toaster tier, if you will.
Toaster tier, yeah. Are we seeing, though, Danny, like we're seeing a lot of quick responses to these, and hopefully after this GW run event where the majority of their top 10 was Tyranids and Wallace O'Donnell. Good job, Alaskan buddy. Are we going to see kind of an overreaction to this and just like a huge nerf?
I hope so.
No.
I was like, he's
sorry. It depends on the level of embarrassment for GW that they got from this event. Like
5 out of
4 out of the
5?
5.
5? Come on.
Was it all 5? I thought it was 4 out of 5, but it was 5 out of the top 6 at least, because there was somebody mixed in there. I just can't remember
Oh,
who.
no. So the going into the semifinals, there was a Blood Axe player.
Yeah, 1
I'm
orc, 3
pretty sure they
Tyranids.
lost their last 2 rounds and they got pulted down because they didn't do wind path for placement
I see.
after they broke into pods. They just did pure battle points. First, I don't know, for some reason, who knows?
Don't do that, TOs out there. That's a terrible idea. Don't do
Why?
pure battle points. I don't care what GW says. It's wrong, and you shouldn't do it. Use wind
Yeah,
path
Mike
like
Brandt.
a smart person.
It's very weird. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was 5 for 5. It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Part of me is curious to see what GW's response will be and how fast it will be. They haven't released an FAQ for Tyranids yet, so they could just release an FAQ and cover a bunch of some of the rules that people are getting. Although I heard that at the GW event, they were ruling that Maliceptors get 4 casts during their imperative turn. So you can get the psychic action and then 2 casts and then another cast from, as I count out of frame with my fingers. So you can get a total of 4 casts if you use a stratagem, which means you can
It just
spit.
makes you look smarter.
It's
Guys.
true. You can get 12 mortal wounds.
Or 4 casts. 4 casts.
4 casts, all cast on 3d6, drop 1 die, and you get to pick the die. So if you roll 2 6s and are going to perils, you can be like, nah, I choose not to perils today.
Perfectly balanced. And thank you, chat, for letting us know that 70% is barely a C. What kind of doctor stats are you?
So one of the things that I want to tell you is that the American grading system is also terrible.
Oh, this guy hates American now.
I do actually, kind of, just a little
Why
bit.
do we have this guy on the show?
I mean, there are lots of reasons why the United States deserves to be hated, and all of them are recent news that I'm not going to talk about on a 40K podcast show.
It's the political news.
We can talk about some politics if you want, where we can get into the morality of legality of certain procedures that are done. If you
Look, we don't have time to get into politics, nor the audience to go into politics. But to move on,
John, wait a
really,
minute. Before we leave this topic, I think it's really important. Instead of talking about politics, let's just talk about Warhammer Armies Project. Now, our producer Val has linked this on our chat log, so check it out if you're ever interested in playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles and you're bored until the old world shows up. Give it a whirl.
Or you're a boomer and you like Warhammer Fantasy Battles still. One of the two.
I mean, that's who he was talking to. They really do be loving that WAP. Guys, we gotta move away from the controversy. We gotta have no sensationalistic kind of news or comments or anything. So we only have time for a couple of community comments, but we're gonna start at Daka, the most reasonable place that we can find on the internet.
Of reasonable opinions.
This guy here says, I am deeply saddened that GW kept the current absolute GAC mission design. Maybe some of you kids in chat can let me know what GAC is. So unfortunate. Sticking with the current mission design and repeatable secondary objectives equals massive fail. Mike Brandt equals the new Matt Ward. That said, at least GW acknowledges that stratagems are a problem. We'll see how this works out. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Is Matt Ward the guy who got death threats because Grey Knights hit 55% for a win rate?
No, it wasn't 55% for a win rate. It was 55% attendance.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that sounds so much more reasonable over a game of toy soldiers. I'm sorry, Danny.
Yeah, well, let's be fair. It was terrible. He also wrote that piece of fluff about the Grey Knights killing the Sisters of Battle and using their blood to anoint themselves and protect themselves.
That's what Grimdark is.
Yes,
now I know. Perfect.
Being terrible to women, yes. That's obviously what it's about, John. We've circled around it a lot, apparently.
Mike Brandt, he's been pretty demonized. Not just here on this DACA post, but on some kind of other things like that. What's your guys' views of competitive 40K since he came on board with GW and started kind of being almost like the figurehead of competitive 40K for Games Workshop? And based purely on facial reactions that only I can see alone. Danny, why don't you start with this one?
Well, John, so GAC comes from the Gaunt's Ghost books, wherein it's a slang term for a curse word used by. I almost killed John, you guys. It was great.
God damn it. You guys have to stop only telling jokes right as I take a sip. It's killing me.
Stop taking a sip right before you ask me to talk.
Danny, I have to disagree with you. I have an objection.
Sorry, Tyler.
GAC is actually a putty-like substance from the 90s.
If you're using it in its term as a noun, you're correct. And I'll concede that point. It's also
is it a capital G or a lowercase G in the DACA post? That
it depends.
It's a DACA post, and you guys are arguing punctuation. Jesus Christ, they can't even get thoughts straight. Let alone
we've been editing a lot of papers lately. Like he's been doing a dissertation. I've been doing all of these. Dude, it's been crazy. Look, they dropped GAC. They dropped slime on Nickelodeon. It's also a combination of the words yak and G's. So
for a gag reflex.
That makes the most sense.
Anyway, this guy is just what a comically bad take. Now, how do I feel about Mike Brandt? That's a complicated issue. I feel like sometimes some of the things that people bring up aren't viewed in a favorable light, especially when they're backed up by statistics. Although I will say it seems like that's maybe changing as time goes on, because it feels like maybe they're making some of these changes based on like statistics that are reported by tournament wins and that kind of stuff by people like Nathan, by people like Peter, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that data-driven decision making is the way that we move forward in the game and proceed with better balance.
I agree with Danny.
No, Nathan, what are your kind of thoughts on this? I can't wait for 40K to become like EVE Online and just be an Excel spreadsheet we discuss at a table.
So there's definitely like two extremes. One is the straw man argument that John just tried to use about 40K becoming a spreadsheet simulator. But what really I wanted to say most about this DACA post is that it is very representative of DACA, which is old, stodgy, and with terrible opinions. All shouted very loudly from a point of some kind of assumed authority by being an old forum. I actually like that we're moving more towards using numbers and statistics to inform balance decisions, and also GW's approach of trying to leverage the competitive community and top performing players to help make some of those decisions. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing worse than hearing that GW never listens to play testers, never listens to the competitive community, doesn't listen to anybody who does analysis, and instead starting to listen to some of those people. Although sometimes they listen to the wrong thing, which we all saw when Custodes came out, and they immediately decided to buff them because a bunch of Custodes players complained before the rulebook was even out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I will say, I mean, this is the way to go. I love Halo deeply as a video game. All of the best Halo games are designed for the legendary difficulty, and then they scale it down from there, from the different settings, making sure at the very hardest point, it's as balanced as it can be, because then it's easier to scale down. And I think 40K kind of works the same, where if you can balance it at the very top, it's going to be way better for people like me in the Necron tier and kind of the mid-tables as well. We're going to move on here. Forge World seems to be moving to the main line, which is bad, I guess. We have this slide here. Games Workshop just needed to quickly add a bunch of old Forge World knits to the normal GW web store under a new expert level model kits category. One more nail in the coffin of Forge World, in my opinion.
Do people not understand that Forge World and Games Workshop are basically the same company or something like that?
No, they don't. And Tyler, I apologize for all the coughing, but Jesus, blame Danny. Blame Nathan. They make me laugh.
Sorry.
How do you guys starting with Nathan here? Well, what's your view of the integration of Forge World into the main line and not being kind of this separate thing?
Cool. Like, that makes sense. Don't have Forge World rules writers write anything ever again, because they're like teenagers on angst. And inevitably, you always see in every edition some Forge World model. Volkite Dreads were one of the perpetrators in this edition. that is just way too good for its points costs, and instead GW can write those rules. Although they did write this most recent compendium, so maybe that's just more on GW. But it can get better as GW integrates all of that into their main rules writing staff and main model production facilities. I assume that all the Forge World people are going to come along anyway, since Forge World is just a satellite company of Games Workshop, regardless of the situation. I don't know what difference it makes, honestly. I don't even know why people complain about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, what's your take on this?
I don't understand why people are so upset. I thought the people that wanted Forge World to go away were gone. Is that not true? Are they back again? Can we make them gone again? That would be fine.
They are back again. It's true.
Oh.
I think some of it comes from the part of when you order from Forge World, it's like, yeah, you're on the same plane, but ordering from Forge World, you're sitting in first class, you're not in coach. Even though it's like the same plane, you're going to the same place, you're going to the same destination, you get there at the same time. By moving kind of the first class seats back to the main cabin, you feel a little less special.
Are they like reducing the cost of it?
I was thinking it's
it was like
you were in coach and they moved you into the cargo area, where you had to like assemble your own seat and seat belt in order to sit down and have a safe ride.
And there's a big old gap between the seatbelt ends.
Yeah, you have to fill that in with your own buddy from home.
Hope you brought your arc welder with you. You're gonna have to fix some stuff.
Go all about it, guys. We're gonna round out tonight with what I hope is not a recurring segment, but what I'm very excited for. It's crime time. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, you're ready.
Yeah. John, what's crime time?
With this slide here, we're going to see the Raiders smash their way into popular Warhammer workshop. This was in the UK. Warhammer store was broken into and smashed. Now I'm going to ask both of you guys here. Obviously, you're in America, so you could be responsible for this. Starting with you, Nathan. If you're going to break into a Games Workshop, what are you taking?
Do they stock Forge World products? Is this a Warhammer World, or is this just like a regular Warhammer store?
You know, you inform yourself. You let me know.
If it's just a regular Warhammer store, right now I'm just taking every single Tyranid box that's up and like just shoving it into a bag, along with every Night box too.
Yeah, Danny, what are you taking from a GW?
Well, John, from personal experience of the two local shops that we have that had cars run into them through the front doors and products stolen out of them.
Too real, Danny. Too real, Danny.
I would take a bunch of magic cards.
Oh, that's a much better answer.
That's much better. From an actual literal corporate Warhammer store. Danny, I want to again thank you for playing along with the bits and really improving on what I put here. It makes me feel wonderful every time.
I love you, John, and your
let's expand on this story here, and thank you, Nathan. I'm not going to ignore that. I'm going to clip that and keep that forever. We're going to say here, Cleveland police were called to the incident, and a crime scene investigation team has been at the Games Workshop throughout the day searching the property. Shop manager Graham Pucifer says the CCTV appears to show 3 suspects dressed in black break into the shop at around 6 a.m. So starting with Danny here, 3 people make their way in. How much do you think they make it out of there with?
Oh, well, are they normal like basement dwellers, or are we talking like non-Warhammer players?
So much like a good mystery, we increase the information as the slides increase.
All right, so I'll just go with yes and we'll pretend that these guys are all normal size Games Workshop players, so over 6 foot. They've got big arms. They can take just piles of loot. We're talking in the thousands. And just one more clarification: this happened in Cleveland in the UK. I'm unfamiliar with Cleveland. Is that a place?
Yeah, Cleveland Police. Well, it's Teesside Live was the source on this, which Teesside is a place in northern England. But of course, like many things in America, they've co-opted a lot of English things. I didn't do a lot of fact checking on
thousands,
this.
John, thousands.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Of Warhammer kits made it from that store into a Nissan Altima, and were quickly driven out and sold on the black market. Who knows? Maybe even to the Chinese for recasting. you can only imagine.
You can only, yeah. So I love your theory that the people who broke into the store and stole stuff were Chinese recasters who wanted to steal the kits to create molds to sell. That's that's a really extreme love of the game there. Nathan, what's your head fiction of why this crime took place?
I'm actually going to assume, like some no-knock raids in the United States, they just hit the wrong store, and they meant to hit the store a block away. The jewelry store that was down the street,
Bunch of
really.
really confused people why Games Workshop doesn't have any PlayStation 5s in it.
They broke in. They were really confused. They just grabbed maybe like a handful of stuff because they didn't know what else to do because they were already there.
They saw a gaming store and they thought video games and DVDs, and like
they actually thought magic cards. They were like, "Oh yeah, we can get some magic cards." And they busted in, and they were like, "Oh no, the magic card store is the next store."
Oh, what is this, model kits?
Well, one more layer of information here. This is an interview with the manager of the store. They have smashed through the door. They've taken a lot of random items. It doesn't look like they've known what they are looking for. They're probably just looking for items to sell on. They were probably in the shop for about 5 minutes before they escaped through the back. So with this information, guys, starting with Nathan here, and Danny, I swear to God, if you do like Price is Right plays on this, I will just be very sad. What is the dollar amount that these people escaped with?
Can I do the Price is Right dollar?
Oh yeah, Danny, you go first because I know what you're going to do. Danny, go. Well, how much did they escape with? $1.
So if we guess over, then we lose, is what I'm understanding from this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess $1.2.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
And what I'm going to say though is that they're gonna have thrown most of the kits into the dumpster out back once they realized that they had stolen gaming models and not magic cards.
Well, it turns out that the three suspects are believed to have forced their way into the workshop early on Sunday morning, made off with around 500 pounds worth of products between three people. So yeah, of course, Nathan, closest without going over.
Damn you.
Worth of predominantly new and unopened items from the shop, which is popular among gamers. Which, if you think about it, and I'm no statistician, I don't know the math, but $500 divided by three people means they're left with like one box and a paint each.
Maybe they just wanted to start a new army.
They left with a start collecting box and a start painting set.
And a start painting set.
Is that like one, maybe two of the new Chaos Knight boxes at most?
Well, see, and get the shield counter ready here. If you were to buy your Chaos Knight box from Frontline Gaming, then you could actually get two and have enough left over to buy the Imperial Knight Codex, which is also up for pre-order, and have some good change. I'm just saying. That was my favorite story of this week, that three grown men broke into a Games Workshop and were only able to steal 500 pounds worth of stuff, which, as Nathan quite rightly pointed out, is like a third of an army, maybe a kill team.
I didn't know models weighed so much now.
I was going to say these are the other kind of basement dweller. You assumed they were the 6 foot tall kind. I'm assuming they're the 5'7" kind who got.
So they just couldn't reach the expensive boxes on the top shelf.
Well, I assumed they had an asthma attack halfway through getting to the alley and couldn't get enough
That's
boxes.
Fair. It is
personally.
Pretty dusty in those stores.
I was thinking the BO was clogging everything.
It was just Paul Winters and his electric vehicle told him he needed to charge, so he had to leave like instantly there. Least successful robbery of all time. You gotta love it. Nathan, thank you so much for coming on tonight. That's it. It's done. We didn't ask you complicated stat questions or any kind of informative fun things for our audience. But go ahead, plug your stuff. Let people know where to find you.
Sure. So you can see me every Tuesday on the Best in Tabletop Network, where I, Ennis, and Anthony Vanella host 40K Fight Club, where we go over the meta from the last week and go through all the stats in excruciating detail, which we fortunately did not need to do tonight. I actually also want to thank Danny and Jon. I love watching this show every week, and I like being on it. And also, I like watching Mob Rules, and I wish it would come back. Oh. Why have you abandoned me?
Oh, well, Danny has a fun thing called school, and I pretend that my school is just as intense, but it's really not, and I need to stop caring as much. Amazing. Well, next week, Danny and I will be back. Same FLGN time, sort of. And the same FLGN channel, if we still have a job. But I think we chilled enough tonight, Danny, right?
Yeah. I got a call from Reese. He says that your dogs are now okay, and he'll be shipping them back up to you on the next plane. Only one of them has lost a paw.
And that was just because Seth was looking after it during the time.
Well, Seth got bored and wanted to practice his amputation skills, and
Oh boy. But we're going to be back next week with FLG writer Dan Mayer. But don't worry, it's still going to be pretty grim after dark.
Bye-bye.
That was it. That was a cue. We're good. Just keep it as awkward as possible.